Thanks, Vice-Chancellor, Mr. Ambassador, and Professor Swamy, Commodore Uday Bhaskar, and my friend from Routledge. I'm immensely honored and moved by the presence of so many friends and well-wishers. In 1952, nothing was happening on the bilateral relations. India recognized Israel in 50, nothing was happening. So Israel decided to send the Director General, that is equivalent to Foreign Secretary, to India. He flew from Lord, that was the name for the airport, to India via Karachi. And he could not go out of the airport. He stayed there in a hotel inside the airport. So until the 1960s, European flights will always make a stopover in Israel before flying further. But from the 1960s, the Arab countries decided to enforce an embargo on aircrafts from or to Israel using their airspace. So my first international trip, or flight for that matter, was to Jerusalem. So in 1988, incidentally 4th of July, I flew from Delhi, Rome, Tel Aviv. Later on, it was Delhi, Bombay, Cairo, Tel Aviv. In 94, relations were established with Amman. So it is Delhi, Amman, Tel Aviv. It's a very easy flight, just about 1 hour wait. I take classes till Friday, Saturday early morning I can fly, and I'm home by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It was the one I used for about more than a decade. But the globalization meant Emirates and Qatar Airways completely wiped out Jordanian option. Royal Jordanian no longer flies to India. I said, okay, let me try Turkish Air. So Delhi, Istanbul, Turkey, Istanbul, Tel Aviv. But you know, Turkey-Israel relation is not very friendly. You can actually see the tension when you cross the security check in Istanbul. I said, no, this is not a good option. Then I settled for Aeroflot. Yes, there are few flights to Moscow, and similarly few flights from Moscow to Tel Aviv. So it was Delhi, Moscow, Tel Aviv. And finally, in 2017, I could simply fly Delhi to Tel Aviv, flying over Saudi airspace. At that time, Saudi Arabia did not have relations with Israel. Even today, they don't have. If you read those newspapers, Netanyahu was very angry. How come only Air India has a right, El Al doesn't have? And because my passport carried an Israeli visa, way back in 1988, I told myself, if I'm going to Israel, let me do it openly. No paper visa. With the result, my passport was full of Israeli visas. Since I lived in Israel for a decade, my passport was actually issued in Tel Aviv. With the result, I cannot go to any Arab countries. I said, okay, that's not my loss. Gradually, things changed. I was able to go to Morocco, Bahrain, and UAE when these countries did not have relations with Israel. And even Qatar, I actually flew to Germany. I said, let me take via Doha. Nothing happened. I just passed through, no checks or anything. In other words, there are changes happening. So one of the first things I asked the class is, what is Israel's capital? Half the class will say Tel Aviv, other half will say Jerusalem. But if you look at very carefully, all the sovereign institutions are located in Jerusalem. The Parliament, Supreme Court, Office of the President, and the official officers of all the governments, all the sovereign institutions. But the international community does not recognize Jerusalem as a capital. Trump and the US is a different story. We'll talk about it if necessary. The international community recognizes Tel Aviv as a capital. Even the Arab ambassadors will have to present credentials in Jerusalem, not in Tel Aviv. But the community recognizes Tel Aviv as a capital. Tel Aviv does not have any of the sovereign institutions except a beautiful beach. This is what it is. If you think the Israel and the relation is very simple, think again. But to study this, you cannot find a better place than JNU. I'm saying with all humility, what JNU teaches you is to be the wind. Most of us try to be a weathercock. That's a different story. It trains you to be the wind. I have a personal baggage. I spent about 10 years in Israel, and I spent 3 months until the COVID, every 3 months, my summer vacation, winter break in Israel. And at the same time, my wife is a Chinese national. So the Indian left talks about my Israeli connection, and the Indian right talks about my Chinese connection. And I'm stuck between the two. And for that, Jain is the best place. And if you look at it, most of the students in JNU do not have any understanding of the Abrahamic faith. How do you explain Israel to them, somebody who doesn't know Bible or Torah or even Quran? How do you explain to them? For me, the greatest revolutionary is Moses. Let my people go. And to explain them, you need to do the present with the past. You cannot explain the past without the present, and you cannot explain the present without the past. I can explain even the agitation which is taking place in Israel today with the past. Moses brought 10 commandments. What is the essence of it? The essence is simple. Nobody is above the law. That's what they are saying. 32 weeks, Israelis are saying, no one is above the law. The law is supreme. Not the prime minister, definitely not the interior minister. And for this, you are telling the Moses is the example. This is how you are going to do that. One can specialize any country in JNU. I'm not disrespectful to anybody for that matter. Don't take me wrong. So let me say X. If I'm specializing country X, do you think you will all come and listen to me? No way on heaven. Until, of course, I promise a good lunch in IIC. No way. So Israel, if you look at it, there is an enormous passion for Israel in JNU, which reflected in the wider Indian context. And once Professor Swamy made a Twitter, Kumaraswamy worked about Israel when the very word Israel was blasphemous. That's a reality. And it was not an easy journey. See, if you look at the title of the book, the subtitle is A Ringside View. It's my personal understanding of the conflict. But this kind of journey is never taken alone. There are enormous people who are instrumental in me standing in front of you. I can make a long list. It will be like Hanuman's tale, endless. So I'm going to mention only 3 people here. You know, the book original draft was 120,000 words. In Israel, we all know that when 2 Israelis meet, there are 3 opinions. In terms of narration and in terms of logic. The hand of God came in the form of Professor Avraham Sella from the Hebrew University. It took him about a year. He went over my entire manuscript, went line by line. We had a long conversation over WhatsApp, hours and hours of conversation. And I'm extremely grateful to him. All errors are mine, but if there is anything good, he is the one who said, Kumar, this is not how you interpret. And the second thing is, in 1999, Professor Grijesh met me in Jerusalem. And he said, you are in Jerusalem, we have relations with Israel, we need somebody to teach Israel. Would you like to come here? I said, yes. It is you who brought me from Jerusalem to JNU. I'm grateful to him. My journey is much longer. It's 40 years. I was doing my master's in Chennai, at that time Madras. And as part of the master's program, you are supposed to do a dissertation. And I'm talking about 1982-83. So I said, okay, let me do something on terrorism, which was extremely new subject at that time. Let me specialize terrorism. I was collecting data and working on this. And suddenly, in November that year, Sunday Weekly carried a cover story. Now it's no longer available. It's published from Calcutta, at that time edited by and founded and edited by M.J. Akbar. And the cover story was Professor Swamy. He met Menachem Begin, and his argument was India should have relations with Israel. Like, when you are in the 20s, you are very excited. I was very enamored by that. So what I did was, let me make an appeal from my classmates and write to the government of India. So I drafted a letter saying that we, the students of MEI Defense Studies in University of Madras, want the government of India to reconsider their decision of not having relations with Israel. The argument was simple. Pakistan and China, you have good relations with them. You fight wars, you have a territorial dispute, but still you have normal relations. But with Israel, you don't have any bilateral problem. Why do you treat Israel differently? This was my argument. So I showed it to my classmates. Everybody said it's a great letter. And nobody was willing to be the first person to sign. Let others sign, I will sign. So I was showing it to everyone. And finally, a classmate came. And she looked at it. And she said, Kumar, Professor Swamy is a member of parliament. You wrote an article which is very powerful. Most people would have read. Government of India did not change the policy because of the article. You think that about 10, 12 people sitting in Madras writing a letter to Government of India, they will change the policy? And she didn't stop there. And she said, the letter will go to the dustbin. It hurt my ego. I simply said, let me do something which will not go to the dustbin. So I dumped terrorism. I decided to work on India-Israel relations as my MA dissertation. I finished the dissertation on the Ides of March 1984. I wrote to Professor Swamy, and within a few days, he sent me a postcard. In those days, a postcard will come from Delhi to Vellore in 3 days' time. I don't know about today. It used to come in 3 days' time. So he wrote that, Kumar, I will be in Vellore. I will be in the collector's bungalow on the 31st of March. Come and meet me at 3:30. So, because it's such an important, my father came with me. So I met him. So I showed my dissertation. He looked at it and said, sitting in Vellore, if you are doing such a good work, why don't you do a PhD? Go to JNU. At that time, I had no plans to do PhD. I'm a typical middle class person. I was thinking that finish MA, find a job, settle down. And JNU I never even heard of that. But he said in front of my father said, no matter what, let's do it. Here I am. And when I finished my PhD, I thought, 6 years, I'll go back, I'll do something else. Guys, it is 41 years. I'm still in Israel, stuck, for the better or worse. And that's why when people call me, you are a Madrasi, I said, no, I'm an Israeli. That's what I tell. And it is because of that one article, sir, I am here, and I'm extremely happy that you inspired me to do that. And therefore, when you are a government official, you can give him Padma Shri Bharat Ratna. If you are a landlord, you can give him a land. If you are a millionaire, you can give him money. I'm only an academic. So what I did was, the book is dedicated to him. Thank you, sir. A few things about the book. It's only like an alphabet. It's only 26 chapters. It has no jargons, no models, no theories, no footnotes actually. It is meant for anyone who can read simple English, can understand it. That's all it is. I'm not trying to compete with anybody else. And if you look at all the books on Israel, you have a pro-Israeli opinion, anti-Israeli opinion, a Jewish opinion, and an Arab opinion. I'm an outsider. If you put very crudely, I'm a Gentile, kafir, infidel, and pagan. It is my outsider's view. At the same time, since I was in Israel for such a long time, it is a ringside view. I try to make it as simple as possible with all the additional information available if you want to read it. Documents, articles, maps, citation, anything you want. But the text itself is very simple to understand this. The ambassador raised the question, is it the Arab-Israeli conflict or Arab-Israeli relations? You know, the panel tells you it is an Arab-Israeli conflict. I tried my best to get an Arab ambassador on the table. I couldn't get it. That tells you a lot. Okay? I want it. If there is a, then I would have said, sorry sir, I would change the addition addenda, but I could not get it. That tells you the conflict is very much there. Is it an Israeli-Palestinian conflict? Israeli-Arab conflict?